Hi guys, welcome to the session. My name's Paul, this is Plan Z. Hopefully this finds you very well. In a minute we're going to be going into the settings video on the GT-1000. But first off I just wanted to say hi. Hopefully you're well. Thank you for your support and curiosity. Hopefully this next round of videos should be of interest. Now what I've been doing is setting up all the amps using templates, and there's been a bit of a change. If you've been following, you'll have noticed the V4 Sheriff is now gone, and I've got a SY-300 here. Now I've only just got my hands on it, so we're not, it's early days, but what I have done is routed it into my template, and I want to show you the settings for this today. But before we do, let's have a little look at what's going on. Let's get orientated. So I've taken HXeffects out of the mix. If you've been following, you know I've been using that before the amp and after the amp, but I've taken it out of the chain and I've found actually that was hurting my signal. So for anyone who's got HXeffects or looking at HXeffects, it does affect your tone if you're putting it before your amp. I'm using it now as a wet, and I'm doing that by taking a side chain off 2 notes, take a mono from there, and then I go stereo wets in here, and I'm going to be experimenting with this to see if I can't create kind of Strymon type tones with it. Yeah, let's see what we can't do with it as a wet machine. But for the GT-1000, I've been finding I can actually get really nice high gains. I was able to tone match that V4 Sheriff, and I'm just going to take it out of the mix for a minute and bring the synth in. So what I've done is we've got, let's come back onto the neck pickup, let's pull the gain pot back to 8, let's give ourselves some wets. So this is going from my sub outs directly into the mixer over here. You can see the levels jumping around, hopefully if it's just in shot. Yeah, it is just in shot. So we've got a light spring reverb there, not too heavy, but I'm going to mess around with that as we go deeper into these sessions. This is just starting points. So here I've got some wet, so I've got a delay and then a reverb. So the reverb kicks in with the delay and it's totally wet, and that's running independently from here into the mixer. So this is parallel wets. Okay, now there's also wets in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to engage the synth. Actually, let's not with the guitar, let's just do it on its own. And it will come in, it will hit the speakers here, go off into the wets there, into here, from both of those, and it also goes into the wets of the GT. It's a very soft sound. What I'm going to do now is just disengage the synth, engage my low gain, but now engage the synth with a low gain. So it's really nice being able to add extra color in where I want to. So I've disengaged the synth. Now these 2 empty patches here, these 2 unlit patches here are my spare patches. So here I've got another medium gain or a low gain. I've got a different wet on it, so let's take this wet off. We're going to look at the wets on this in a sec in the settings view. What's nice about this patch is we've got it 2 amps in stereo. Take the wet off. Let's pull the wets back and bring them back in. And in this patch, we've got exactly the same thing, but medium gain that's driven with a high gain that's with the gain at the same place. So when I scroll through the three patches, I've got a medium gain with the gain at about 50 or 60. I've got a medium gain with the gain at about 40. And I've got a medium gain with a gain on 70 or 80. Now the wets on this one, I can't remember what I've used there. It's either a plate or a Hall. When I extend it, we go a bit longer. Now I've got a reverse delay on here as well. Stick on some extra wets. Okay, so I'm just going to pull that back so it stops. So they're the three patches. Let's dive into some settings. So I'm hoping this angle is going to work for us. We're going to go into the first patch. And what happens is we come in, I hit a divide, and the B side is where the synth is. And at the moment, I've got nothing else in there nothing else in there, but I will be using effects and things on the synth as I dive deeper into things. Now over here I've got I think a univibe, and then I've got a couple of boosts. So I've got a fuzz and I've got a drive, and then I hit a noise suppressor. So my threshold here I have commonly at 60 and then the release at 0, and I'm on input. I then have the 2 amps. I then have the threshold again with the other noise suppressor after the amps, the same, the release the same, input the same. Okay. The next thing to happen is the EQs. So here in this first EQ, I do a slight adjustment of the overall level, a +1, because I'm dropping out 2 dB, around 2 dB commonly per amp of 2K or around there. Yeah, we're going to be fishing around for those frequencies in the deep dives, make sure we've got the right ones. And then in the next one, I take out 315 on pretty much every patch, somewhere between 4 and 6 on a Q of 8. Okay, and it just takes out some low boxy woofiness I don't like. There's no high-low cuts here until we get to the last EQ. Now on the second EQ, I'm reducing the overall gain by 1 because I'm boosting 8. I want to boost that by 2. Let's turn those wets off. Go boost that by 2. And then here I've picked 1.6. I was tone matching the Sheriff at the time, so I chose 1.6, and I've ended up on a +2 gain there. But if I feel like the highs are too much, I'll just pull that back a little bit. And again, there's no high-low cut. The next EQ, I've used a graphic EQ. I've got a +1 on the dB, and I've only in this amp taken out about 3 dB of 500 Hz. Everything else is flat. Now I've put it's nice to have some flexibility, and this I use more when it gets to the high gain amps. Yeah, the next EQ is just dealing with the highs. Now you're not going to notice it so much on this amp, but on the high gain amps like the Mesa Boogie for example, this is really quite effective. So I take out a -1 dB on the low, a +1 on the high gain, and a +3 overall, because what I've done is you've got your high-low cut here. So I've taken the high cut at 8K, the low cut at 100K for the minute. Usually in a mix I go to about 125, but for these deep dives I'm keeping it 100. Then I take out somewhere between 1 and 2 of 5K on a Q of 8. and then 4K on a Q of 4 or 8 depending on the amp, and I'll be taking, you know, 2 to 4 dB depending on the amp. Okay, all of this is gain staged as per the previous video. I'll do that in the amp deep dive. Now, the compressor I've used for this patch is the Boss Comp. I quite like that it has a little oomph to it. I give the tone a push up of 10 just to help the lows. I drop the level to 47, my attack's at 50, my sustain's at 37. You'll see this is quite softly. I'm on a 1.6.1 ratio with 30% coming in on the direct mix, and I've used, this is like a master compressor type strategy. Now I would ideally like that after my cabinet, but I'm using the synth in the send returns, and you know, I'm making that call, but it's not. If you look at the activity here, it's barely touching. I'm just giving a slight push. You feel that? It's very subtle. I'll turn it off and on. So it just subtly bumps your level, gives it a bit of balls. Then the signal comes directly out to 2 notes. Now in the main out, I've got the mic level is at 0. Okay, so turn the mics off if you're going out into a cab sim, and then push in the next page. You push up the direct mix up to 100. When this comes as factory, the mic is on 100 and this is at 0. So that's what I do there. And you'll notice here, if we scroll along, this here, if I engage it, is the wet channel. So we've got a reverb. We'll be looking at these closer because we'll go into the assigns. I just want to kind of get the overview of the patches out of the way in this video. So I've got a spring reverb with a tremolo after it. But here I turn the speaker type off, or I put on the original cab. Depends. So let's listen to that in the amp. So let's go to, let's listen to the color. I think I'm going to leave it with original cab on. I think I quite like that. So I've also got here a bit of a delay going on. So when I engage that divide, this delay comes on, and it's got a bit of chorus on it. When it's fully extended, it's on 100% feedback, and I pull it back on the expression using the assigns to 0, just to get a little bit of slap back action, a bit of extra movement there. So that's this patch. Now, actually, before we move on, let's look at what happens when the synth is engaged. So let's keep those wets on, and let's start out by engaging both. Let's go to a low gain. Let's extend those wets on the delay. Okay, just disengage the delay and let the trails trail off. Let's engage the other wets from HXeffects. Okay, so now when I hit this button, I go back to the guitar, but I could hit the button that's on the patch button, and there I've got just what's happening on the synth. Let's change the synth. Excuse me. Okay, out something else. Haven't really had a proper chance to play with this as yet, so it's going to be fun to crack that open properly. Let's go back to the guitar. Let's just go back to our medium gain, save the patch with the wets off, and go into the next patch. Now the next two patches are basically set up the same. The thing that's different is I want to show you the wets on the other one. But here we basically use the same strategy. I'm coming in, I've got my extra pedals effects if I want them, the loopers there, I've got a drive here, and then I've got the noise gate. Now here is where the synth is in this one. So when I hit the button, here I'm going between a medium and a high, medium and a low gain on the amps. But here, when I hit this button, it turns off the noise gate, engages the synth, turns off the amps, and puts it through the compressor and EQ. So it gives it a totally different tone. I still haven't finished working this patch out, how I want to use it. But the synth is in there. Now in these patches is where the stereo happens. So what happens, and I'm not going to talk about the EQs and stuff, I'll talk about the compressor in a moment, but the EQ I basically use the same strategy, but I put the graphic equalizers on each of the amps. The reason I do that is because I'm going to use them more on the heavier amps there to create the differences, and it's kind of easier. But in the divide, my first button here is when I hit it, it always takes it either into stereo, both amps, or mono. Yeah, the button that's next to it that you can't see, hang on, oh no, if I pull it out it'd be maybe a problem. Hang on, let's pull it out. The button that's next to it, when I hit that one, it takes the signal into the amp to the right, and when I hit the other one, it's to the amp in the left. I just something's been bugging me. I just want to turn that up by 1 dB. Yeah, so but then how I get back into mono from being there is I double tap here. Okay, let's go back closer to the screen because we'll have a little look at these wets. Focus, damn you. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to dive into the amps in the amp deep dive. This is just an overview of the patch. The compressor I've used here, because we're working in stereo, is the stereo compressor, and you'll notice my settings are more or less very similar. The level's slightly higher, but what happens here is when I go to the stereo patch, I've got an assign where I drop the level to 45 to make it slightly less overpowering, so my main guitar still cuts through if ever I lay down a stereo. Okay, but if I lay them down individually left to right, they're coming through at the normal volume. The compressor doesn't change. The sustain at 37, attack at 50, it's all very soft, level at 50, and again I've used the 1.61 kind of mastering type compression on the ratio. 30% direct mix coming through. The thing I wanted to show you here is the speakers and everything is the same. Let's engage the wets. Is if you're using a drive, an extra drive into your send return, because you've got your favorite drive pedal, you can use, if you've got a spare drive in GT-1000, try using the drives after your wets. Now what happens here, what I've done is I've got a reverb that's actually not doing a great deal. Let's just turn this divide off. Okay, now it's going through a chorus because I've put this here. If I take that off and put it into there, actually let's do that. Let's try that for a moment. This will be now different to all the other templates, so let's now open this up to how it was. And this is my delay, and what I've done is I've got the level quite low, but the level changes. So when I pull my expression switch back, the level's kind of short and low to feel a bit like a slapback. but when it's fully extended, the level only goes up to about 30, but it goes to 100% on the feedback. Yeah. Now let me take this off. Could turn it up, but this is giving a bit of grit. Now you don't need to be aggressive on the level, but you can drive the drive if you want. I've driven this, I've used an XOD, but we could use anything else. I'm actually going to be using a blues driver on most of them. I think I'm going to be having a look at one of my favourite pedals from back in the day. So I've got the drive here at 80, the tone on 0, and the level at 20. I've used the X because it kind of separates the frequencies in how it does its overdrive. And in the following page I've taken quite a bit of the bottom out, so down to about -22, and I've got the direct mix coming through, because if I don't put the direct mix in, let's turn this off, it's in mono. Yeah, let's add that. Now let's add my chorus. This is now giving us the stereo feel. Is that better with the reverb as well? In the room it makes it feel just a touch wetter. So what we're going to do is we're now going to just I think save that patch and then look at the next wet. So this, you'll see exactly the same layout, everything is the same. We're going to go through, except the amps are different. Now the reverb here, I've used Hall 2. Let's get this wet channel on. And I've used the same strategy, but on this one I've let's engage the channel. I've used a reverse delay, which on its own the level's quite low because I've got the drive after it. So I've used the same strategy, XOD, got the drive at 70 though. Tone again here, I could play with the tone if I wanted to. Got the drive again at 20, again taking some lows out, but I've brought the direct signal through a bit more on this. And it just gives it that bit of dirt. It's really nice. Now I wanted it to feel stereo, so I've used was it this? Yeah, there we go. It's my stereo chorus, just to give us some stereo there. Now when I extend this, I can just, you know, play a couple of notes. So let's then disengage the delay, leave that hanging. I don't know if this is going to work because I've only just put it in. I've not set it up for the synth, but let's turn the synth on. Now I think with the return on that, I didn't go to full feedback, so it won't keep going forever and ever. It will fade off eventually, but it comes into quite good effect. So let's say, for example, let me save this. That will probably die. So what we're going to do now is go to a high gain, separate it into stereo, and come in nice and heavy. so I'm going to end that session there, I think. Hopefully you've got a sense of what's going to be, let me just pull that back. Do you know what? Actually, before we do, let's pull this camera up. Let's go back to more of the, oh, I've clipped the thing. That wasn't very smart. Give me a moment. Let's just do that. Let's just do this. Now hopefully you can see everything. I think you can just about. Is that right? More or less. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the synth up. Let's go synth, just synth, but let's make it wet. Let's go to, right, so Robin made friends with a subscriber called Robin. Hi Robin, how you doing? Hope you're very well. Thanks for putting me on to this. This is my first little patch Robin put me on to, which is a psychedelic lead, which on its own is just this. Kind of reminds me of the beginning of Aliens or something. There's some theme tune somewhere it's reminding me of. I think it's Aliens, I might be wrong. But anyway, let's have a little jam. Let's see what happens when we introduce the synth into the little jam we've been doing for this deep dive. Actually, I might get the Tele out in a minute. Let's take this loop. So we've got that. Let's take those wets off. Let's go to a plexi. So we've got the plexi set up in the same way, albeit this is set up as a low, medium, high gain. The synth isn't in there in the same way. Let's stay on the Bogner. Let's go to the low gain. Actually, no. Let's go. Yeah, let's try that. Try taking a loop. So I've taken the loop. I'm going to lose that low bass line, bring the filter up on the looper. We should have our loop right there. Lovely. So now maybe let's try going back to the boutique cab, because I haven't set up any of the other stereo patches just yet. Let's go to this one. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I just put on a tube screamer. Okay, so we've got our couple of loops. Let's go back to our, maybe a low gain, neck pickup. do is we're going to let that just roll for a moment. Bring in a bass. Get rid of those. Let that feedback stay as it is. I'm just going to change guitar. Okay, so I use a gig rig 321 to get into the GT-1000. There I just change the channel and boom, I've got the Tele. Don't have to change anything here. Just need to hope that I'm in tune. So it's a Fender Tele player. Yeah, let's just go high gain with the tube screamer. Taking the synth off on the looper, got the synth in with me live. Ooh, quite fancy hearing what the Vox might sound like. I haven't set up the stereo patches for the Vox yet, but I have got the main patch. Let's change to the Voice 30. Voice 30 EL84. That's a high gain box. Yeah, I think I'm going to end that there. Cool. Lovely. It's coming together really nice. Robin, thanks for the suggestion on that patch. And yeah, hope you well and enjoyed the session. Take care.